thank you for everybody being on board. There's so many wonderful people on already this morning, which is great. And I loved your session before, Amy. I just wanted to thank you first. That was phenomenal. And just really differentiating between that coaching and mentoring, I think is such an important thing.
Yes.
And, I think when I'm coaching, certainly one thing that I tend to do is I will, if there's mentoring to be done, then I will always call out, this is mentoring, this is coaching. So I think it's really important to be on the same page and to share that. So thank you. That was such an insightful session and really good. So where would I like to start? Well, really, probably where you left off.
I was just thinking the resilience and the difference between coaching and mentoring around resilience probably ties in really nicely to what you're bringing. What's your definition of resilience?
So to me, resilience it's a strength, but it sits in multiple things. So I think at the moment people are looking for their leader, for example, to bring certainty, yet leaders are humans, and so their resilience is coming out in their ability to bring certainty in a really uncertain situation, in a really uncertain time. Yeah. So I think resilience is different on different levels. It's about being able to bring what needs to be brung, if there's such a word.
Yeah.
When it's required, when it's needed in a particular situation. And I think, for finding resilience in teams, it's helping them understand that it's okay if everything is not perfect. I think building that platform for people to feel safe and to feel, even to know that their leader knows that they don't have all the answers, So I think building resilience is allowing people to be human. There's a lot of empathy involved. There's a lot of test and measure even, and just letting people know that things are different, and it's okay that the structures and the strategies that have been working are not working now. We need to work out how to move forward. So it's being resilient to that as well. So it's not a very tight definition of resilience, but I think for me at the moment, resilience is it's a big conversation.
It is a big conversation.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing from you, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this, to teach the team to have resilience, how much resilience does a leader need to have?
That's a really good question. I think, again, it's about being able to be wrong. It's about being able to be human. Absolutely, you need to be able to bring some forms of certainty in an uncertain time. So in terms of being resilient yourself, it's okay to go away and have a moment. It's okay to be honest and open, but when you are with your people, you need to bring that certainty. So resilience comes in the form of how you take action, I think, and what you bring when you need to bring it, and who you are being in whichever situation you are in. So if you talked about who do you need to be, that's absolutely crucial. So when you are with your people, it's about being what they need from you, but also that you would like to see them bringing as well. So I don't know that you need to be entirely resilient, but I do think you need to be who you need to be according to the situation you're in.
I think what I'm hearing is this sense of knowing when and where. So you said take a step away. So it's not losing your shit with your team. It's the taking that time out, getting yourself back together so that you can bring that certainty to them. Does that sound?
Yeah.
on track. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think also, you know, letting them know, guys, I don't know all the answers. I have not had this situation before. This is something we're working through together. And, you know, I will support you in any way I can. And I need you to support me and sort of, you know, step up when we need to step up.
Yeah.
And step in when we need to step in and be open to making mistakes and, you know, the trial and error element of it.
Yeah, I think that's so crucial, is that ability to say, actually, I've got no idea what I'm doing right now, but we're going to find a way together. And I think for a lot of leaders, that's really tough. Like, I know for me, that would have been really tough a couple of years ago.
Yes.
What's your advice to the leader that's struggling with that?
My advice is seek advice. You know, there's a lot of tools out there in the market at the moment in terms of just free tools that people are providing. So, you know, be open to learning and growth, and find some time to, for example, jump on LinkedIn and watch some of the free stuff that's there, read some of the free stuff that's there. LinkedIn are offering free courses at the moment as well. So there's a whole lot of learning there. I think also, you know, being open to being wrong. I mean, I've said that before. So, you know, being not expecting that you have to know everything and being okay with that. So, you know, in terms of mental toughness as well, perhaps reframing what you're saying to yourself. So, you know, I noticed one of the quotes that was up earlier, I think it was Sharon Pearson, is leadership is an inside job. And so, you know, it's actually taking time out, and you know, if you can get up in the morning and meditate, that's a really great start, just to get yourself on a grounded, you know, in a grounded place. It's reframing the things you're saying to yourself. You know, you've got to come at this from a growth mindset. You know, you've got to be open to the opportunities that this throws up for doing things differently, thinking it differently. Unfortunately, I've heard a lot of feedback about leaders who maybe are grappling with this and are doing crazy things, like the extreme that I've heard a number of times is getting people to leave webcams on all day so that they can keep an eye on their people. How
micromanaging at its best.
How exhausting would that be? These poor leaders must be under so much pressure, just even thinking that's going to work for them. But you know, the pressure of feeling like they need to keep seeing their staff. So it's being able to reframe your thinking, but also, you know, changing up what's worked in the past, because it's not going to work moving forward. In fact, micromanagement doesn't work, you know, in terms of growth of people and long-term engagement and great culture. Micromanagement is not the answer, and to get great outcomes and productivity as well, it's not the answer.
So if it's not micromanagement, and I think most of us would agree that micromanagement is definitely not the best path to go down, what would be the path that you would recommend? So for these leaders that have got the pressure of making sure that their teams are still working and are still doing stuff and wanting to teach that resilience to their teams, what is it that would bring that to life?
So I think, you know, ideally, this is things you've already put in place in the past. But I would say that having a really clear purpose and just, you know, bringing everybody together to understand what it is we're here to do. Now, that purpose may have changed somewhat for the short term, because your purpose right now could be keeping as many of you employed as possible. You know, it could be, how can we work together to make sure that we have our jobs and that we are able to service our customers the best we can in this environment, as opposed to, you know, the bigger purpose, which could be, you know, a lot more altruistic, or a lot, you know, I mean, in a sense, this is altruistic because, you know, we all want to take care of one another. And also it could be, you know, to maintain, and, you know, I've been saying to people, let's not go for 100% productivity. It may not be realistic right now. So, you know, our purpose is to keep the business at least 70%. So how are we going to do that? So I think it's having those conversations, and, you know, we're quite late in the day now because we're looking great in terms of being able to slowly go back soon. But even in any, you know, in good times, it's a really important thing to be able to do, is to actually set, again, a platform that people are working off, but also really clearly then define, okay, so what does that mean we need to do, and who do we need to be able to deliver on that. And then it moves on to setting really clear goals. You know, some people are not fan of KPIs, but I'm finding a lot of people are struggling to focus at home. So giving them something really clear to focus on is a really good step as well.
Yeah.
So what is it we need to achieve? And, you know, what do we need to do for ourselves, but also for each other, to enable us to achieve what we need to achieve and keep us, you know, get this productivity to 70%. So there's some of the steps that I would say are really important.
I'm keen to hear your thoughts on how KPIs helps build the resilience in teams. Would you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't think it's not just the KPI, but it's having really clear goals that people are able to work towards. And I think then, in a sense, it's a boundary. You know, it's almost, we know what we need to achieve. Okay, so is it okay to be watching Netflix in the middle of the afternoon? You know, no, we're connected to this KPI, and we've put it in place as a team, and then we're clear on what we need to do to achieve this purpose. I
think what you just added in just then about we've put this in place as a team is so key.
Yes. Yeah. So I think, you know, I probably didn't clarify enough, but when you're talking about the purpose, and then you're looking at who do we need to be and what do we need to do, then you can break down KPIs together. And I think in this environment, it's so important that everybody's on board. And if you've got people working towards that joint vision, joint mission, it's going to... And then you set the behaviours that sit underneath that. So, you know, I'd go as far as to say, you know, this is certainly not micromanaging, but it's being really clear on what the expectations are of everybody. So, guys, is it okay to work from home and duck out and watch Netflix for a couple of hours? Probably not, unless you've achieved your goals for the day, and that's fine. So I think it's also letting people know that. And this is something I think a lot of leaders have struggled with, is letting people know that you can be flexible on how you achieve that. But if you haven't, it's your responsibility. So you know, I think KPIs, it's setting accountability, responsibility, and group team expectations, you know, around behaviour, and that's a core part of setting culture in any organisation and any team within an organisation.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from you is really key is this collaborative. So micromanaging is kind of telling people what they need to do and setting the rules and making sure people follow them, whereas this is they set the rules and they engage with it, and it's a collaborative thing. I imagine that has a massive impact on resilience within the team dynamic. What's been your experience with that?
Yeah, I think so. And so my experience has been, it's interesting because I think that from what I've seen, there are certain clients who are grappling with that transition because it's not how they've led necessarily before, or even if they have led this way before, they're just a little nervous because they don't have the line of sight. So it's a very different world, and it's a really different way of looking at things. I think a lot of my clients are in the IT industry, so a lot of them are doing a lot of remote working anyway. So, you know, I suppose I've been lucky to experience what does work, and I'm able to bring bring that to companies who maybe haven't experienced it so much. I've forgotten exactly what your question was. Tell me the question again. So
I love where you're going with the remote working. So how are you noticing remote working is impacting levels of resilience within teams and the leadership requirements? Let's continue down the path that you started.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it's what it's, one huge impact it's had, and what I've experienced with clients is that a lot of people are spending a lot of time on Zoom calls, and that really impacts the potential to actually do your day job. And so getting that balance, and that's where I think it comes into setting the KPIs and being clear on what behaviours you're looking for, and then, you know, encouraging people to engage amongst themselves where necessary, but also maybe, you know, there's the Friday night drinks idea, which has been fabulous. I've seen a lot of people doing group drinks and things like that. But I think, you know, to begin with, it was really intense, and a lot of people were finding, and leaders were getting burnt out, because they're literally spending their entire day trying to engage with their people, and you know, they needed to, in the sense that people needed them to help them build their resilience and understand, you know, that this was going to be okay, and all of the support and the certainty. But now it's a question of moving away from that and having those clear KPIs and boundaries and checking in. You know, I think putting very clear review steps in place in terms of, you know, okay, how are we going to know you're on track? What do you need from me? So you know, check in with me when you need something from me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, let's have some form of check-in where we can check in on, you know, how things are going work-wise. So so I think, you know, to give leaders the level of comfort they need, that check-in, and they need to understand that things are moving forward and that outcomes are being achieved.
Yeah.
But in terms of building mental toughness, I mean, it's key for leaders. It's so important for people to know that their leader is there and that they can call on them when they need to. So, so I've seen this extreme, and then I've kind of seen a number of people drop to the other extreme. So it's like, it's too much. There's too much communication, too much FaceTime, and then they've almost dropped it completely. So it's, I think, finding a happy medium has, you know, I've seen a couple of companies who've done that really, really well.
Yeah. So finding that balance.
Yeah.
And I think that would be different for different kinds of personalities and different kinds of styles, in the same way that it would be in a regular face-to-face kind of business setting. Mm-hmm. It's navigating each individual as a leader and then bringing them together. Yes.
Yeah. Great point. And so one of the other things that I've talked to leaders about is, you know, is almost checking in on, you know, the thinking styles, the you know, type of, for want of a better description, DISC profile, sort of the profile of the person.
Yeah,
the behavioural style, and you know, in doing that, you know, I'm big on modalities. So, you know, check in on their modalities and communicate with them that way. So, you know, just notice if somebody is more of a visual person, then work out a way that you can give them what they need. That's going to play into how they think and operate. And the same thing goes, you know, if they're auditory or if they're kinesthetic, what are you going to do to overcome that? So I think that's difficult for some leaders to get. But I think it's really, really powerful. So in terms of differentiating how you deal with your different staff members and help them build resilience and mental strength. If you're just talking at someone, and if you're giving direction and expecting a whole lot of input from someone who is, let's say, a C energy, or possibly an introvert, you know, they're going to really struggle, especially even just getting on the FaceTime can be difficult for them. So is it better that you talk to them over the phone? Is it better that you're swapping emails, or you have some kind of check-in that you know, works for them? Not everyone needs lots and lots of FaceTime connection. Connection comes in different ways. And I think, that's another big word, is that, as a leader, in building mental strength and mental toughness in your people, you need that. They're looking for connection. Connection is a core driver for everyone, but how do they want to connect, and how is it best for them to connect, and what will they get the best out of? But making sure that everybody in every sense knows that you are there when they need you. But
I think I think that's so key, like the being present in the way that they need. And then how does that play out? So if the leaders made it available to, like, they've made themselves available to their team and they're calibrating these kinds of things, and the employee or the person that they're leading, managing, isn't stepping up, how does that play out? How do you help that person step into that role more?
So that is a key to leadership. And I suppose someone asked, can leaders be coaches? I think to an extent you need to open yourself up to taking more of a coaching position on that. So, firstly, call out. This is one of my big things is you've got to call out the good behaviours. So if you've set clear boundaries and clear expectations and clear KPIs, then call it out every time something great happens. Celebrate every single little success, whether that be popping a message on a group chat that you're on, or sending out an email to everyone celebrating that something's been achieved that's good. And as I say, it can be something small, but just being calling out that positive behaviour, it enables you to be able to call it out when it's not happening. So, being very honest and upfront, probably more offline than online. So having a conversation. And so if you've set the right boundaries, you can have these conversations. So if you're a leader who's been really clear on expectations, okay, so this is not working for us. What do you need from me to help you achieve this? Is there something different that we can be doing? So, again, enabling, not pushing the person away and making them feel as if they've done something that's not okay and that's wrong, but certainly letting them know that they're not raising to expectations and helping the team. But what is it that you can do to help them? And look, at the moment, it could be that they're trying to homeschool their children and they're just not able to be there 100%. And so that's showing some compassion and some empathy to that person. And again, for me, it's about keeping that. There's a real balance between keeping that mental strength, because we're all going to go back soon. And, the biggest fear is that there's going to be a whole lot of people on stress leave. So, in an ideal world, you'd be calling out the behaviour, you'd be calling out that it's not okay. You'd be looking at putting steps in place to help overcome that, and checking in again. But doing that with some sort of empathy and, compassion at the moment is so important, because if you're not showing that, this is where people are going to crumble. And this person you could have at 60% productivity. That's better than no productivity. So, I think as a leader at the moment in this environment, it's recognising this is the reality of the current situation. Yeah. And looking forward to having a team who are resilient and who can come back strong, and really, come in and then lift that productivity, once they're back in the office or whatever it ends up looking like for you.
Yeah. I love what you raised there about compassion. What do you think the level of compassion available to us from those around us does to our level of mental resilience, mental toughness?
Yeah, I think there's a balance. So I think, as a DI energy, at the end of the day, we've got to get the outcomes and focus on that. But I think at the moment, having compassion is absolutely key in every situation, not just in a business leadership situation, in every situation. And I have been blown away with the compassion that I've seen come out in the community and even in business, just the collaboration that's going on within small businesses, for example, the collaboration that's going on and the value that people are bringing, and the incredible compassion that I'm seeing is phenomenal. So it's absolutely crucial, and I think it's been a huge part of keeping, of keeping that balance. I think we're going to come out of this okay. I think that there's obviously people who've suffered immensely, but I think having the compassion that I've seen, and it's just a way of keeping everybody balanced. I don't know how to explain it. It's it seems that the level of compassion is almost like a bit of a platform, and it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And I have seen and heard where there is no compassion or little compassion. That's often a leader who is sitting in uncertainty, who's sitting in fear, who's not prepared to be vulnerable. You talked a lot before in your interview about being okay with not having control, and there are leaders out there who are finding it hard to show the compassion because they're panicking. They're and so I think we've got to show them compassion as well, to an extent. We've got to understand that they're still human, and potentially this is the beginning of a journey for them, hopefully, where they might reach out and recognise that it could be better. So that's a big answer to the compassion question, but I think it's everything at the moment.
I think you nailed it when you said it's the foundation. So on top of that, because if we don't have, we can't. So resilience is built on being able to make mistakes and keep showing up.
Yeah.
If we don't have compassion available to us, then we can't make the mistakes, which means that we can't then build the resilience muscle. So I think, the compassion definitely plays a massive part.
Yeah.
What is it that as leaders they can bring to organizations? Because I know for myself, a lot of the leaders I'm working with, they've got their team that they're trying to manage, and then there's someone above them that they're also trying to engage with and maintain. How do they walk that line of balance between those two dynamics? What can we help leaders bring to the table to create awareness above them as well as the compassion? Because every tier needs to have the compassion. So the people at the bottom need to have compassion for the leaders compassion for who they're leading, and if that flows through. Is there anything else we would need to bring to the leaders to help them with this building of mental toughness?
I think the key is communication.
Yeah.
So if you are, as a leader, you're always going to have to do some level of managing up, as they say. And if you are able to communicate and you are confident in who you need to be for your team to be able to achieve what you need to achieve for your business, then that's really important. So I think, what we can bring as coaches is helping with communication, identifying, and there's often a difference between how you need to communicate to, like we just said before, there's different types of people, there's different types of approaches. At the end of the day, the business leaders need to run the business. So how do you communicate to them that your goal, you focus on the goals in terms of, productivity, but in order to have the productivity, this is the platform we need to be able to achieve. So I think, communication tools, and, we're talking about compassion, but I also think vulnerability is a key word as well. So, again, being open to being wrong. I think that this has brought us a lot of opportunity. So, there's a lot of things that aren't working now. This could be an overhaul for businesses in terms of how they think, how they do business, how they create, how they innovate. you know, in an ideal world, imagine if we can come at this with, because whilst we're trying to achieve productivity, sometimes at the moment it's not possible. So it's about keeping the doors open. It's about keeping the lights on. So we've got this opportunity to start communicating and being open to taking a little bit of a risk in terms of coming up with some new ideas, some new ways of doing things, some new strategies to move forward. You know, this is giving leaders a good opportunity to create almost a different connection with their teams and with their leadership. And underpinning that is vulnerability, is actually allowing yourself to be wrong or being comfortable with that. And as you said, that's key to resilience as well. In creating opportunity for people to think differently and to do things differently, you're almost you're giving them some sort of something to hold on to almost. It's like it's a challenge that helps kind of generate a different energy to the, oh shit, this is happening kind of energy, you know. It's a question of you know, how could we do it, and allowing your people to make mistakes. And because, you know, I think we've seen a few quotes today, you know, there's no failure, only feedback. And so how can we underpin what we're doing with that? How can we, you know, we talked about the only antidote to fear is action. How do you create opportunities to almost what was that? I was looking, I had a word, a sentence there that just disappeared out of my head. So yeah, how can we use this as an opportunity to you know, create new ways of looking at things. And so then, you know, leading back to the leadership team is, you know, these are some of the things we're doing to create growth for the future.
Yeah. I think there are some people that are really embracing this as the opportunity, as you described, and some people that really aren't. Do you think it's possible for everyone to come from that opportunity mindset, or are there limitations on who can do that?
I think there's always going to be some people who embrace opportunity. I think we're talking about growth mindset, really. And there are always going to be people who see the glass half empty, who don't look for what can be done. And it could be little things that can be done. You know, this is what I've been talking to leaders about, is it doesn't have to be huge, but give people the opportunity to find small things that can be done. They're going to give them that, they're going to build that, the right energies for them, because, you know, the more they're looking at what can't be done, the more they're taking away from their energy and the mental strength. So no, I don't think everybody can, but I think there are tools that we can share that enable people to start to think that way and look at things that way. So the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and you know, there's a whole lot more around, you know, how you hire those things, or how you train and coach those things, or you know, how do you go about that? I suppose in terms of this current situation, it's the leader's responsibility to an extent to come from a growth mindset and try and engage their people from that perspective as well. So to be the example, so as the leader, be the example of how they want their people to respond.
So we've kind of had a couple of like qualities of leadership come through. So the resilience, the growth mindset, the bringing compassion. What else do you think is really important for a leader to bring as they build resilient teams around them?
Well, I mean, as I've said before, one of the key things is certainty. So, you know, I think that to an extent they need to create that certainty through, you know, if we're not certain in an uncertain time, how do we create some kind of certainty? So some sort of commitment to something constant almost. So, you know, that's where it's about communication strategies. It's about, you know, the KPIs allow you to have some wins. So it allows you to kind of connect to something that is taking you on a bit of a journey. And so celebrating success is really key. You know, vulnerability is the other key key component. But I also think, you know, leaders need to be open to shaking it up, to changing it up a little bit, to almost experimenting a little bit in this environment. I know it's hard because everybody wants so much certainty, but, you know, we've got the certainty, but we also need them to be open to challenge and be able to almost, you know, I keep talking about the platform. I think they, you know, I see the leader as a real, all of these things are a key platform for people to grow from and to sort of, it's almost like a safety net, you know. So you've got your leaders as safety net. I mean, actually part of the work that I'm doing is providing another safety net. So if they fall off the platform, you know, you can catch people from a mental strength side of things. You know, catch any of the anxiety and the stress that's sort of causing them to not be able to be consistent in their job, and stop, you know, the people falling into the stress leave and that kind of thing for the next phase of this. But yeah, so I think the leaders, there's a whole lot of things they need to bring. I think really they need to be the sort of grounding elements to the team to a point, not the command element to the team. So you know, you've got to be happy to relinquish some control, and add value from more that compassion and that empathy and mindset perspective as well.
Yeah, what was just popping up in my mind as you were speaking is like the that safety net and providing. So what popped up in my mind was like training wheels on bikes. So we don't put a child on a bike before, like they start with training wheels and they start with someone holding them and they build their resilience, and slowly you let go of them, and then slowly you take the training wheels off. And when you take the training wheels off, you hold on to them again. I kind of that provision of the safety net for the leaders. And then, like you said, the leaders need their own safety net and their own training wheels, which will often come in the form of a coach or a mindset specialist or someone coming in and offering that.
Yeah.
What resources are available for the leaders to tap into in terms of that safety net? So what do you bring that help them tap into that safety net for themselves?
So the tools are, I'm sharing a lot of models at the moment with leaders around coaching and also with their people. So, you know, models that enable them to shift their thinking to, I know you said you don't coach on fear, but there are a lot of people who are struggling with fear in all of this, even just being able to speak up when they need to. So, you know, there's models around, you know, taking action to through fear. There's models around, you know, taking responsibility and ownership, and, you know, a lot of work around thinking, and changing the internal dialogue, that kind of thing. So it's really the mental strength underpinning. So a whole lot of tools and specifically videos and group coaching sessions that help with that stuff. And then with the leader is actually working with the leader to make sure that they're reinforcing these things, that they understand these things, that they've got, they're coming at it from, you know, that they've got the right mental strength themselves. Because I think, you know, let's be honest, a lot of leaders are struggling in this environment to really be who they need to be, and achieve what's expected of them. as leaders, because there's a high expectation on them as well that they do keep productivity happening. So a lot of it for them will be communicating up and that sort of thing. So I'm working with the leader to help them really keep that. I mean, also on the productivity side though, so setting some structure and all of that. But for me, being the safety net for them to kind of catch any anxiety that's sort of falling off the edges, or maybe they're wobbling on their training wheels, just helping to just up and hold on to them again for a little while. So that, because there's so much on the leaders, so a lot of what I'm doing is actually working with their team as well. So
so you become the safety net for both the leader and the team, as the leader learns to step in to be that safety net. So in the beginning you form the safety net for everybody, and then over time the leader becomes the safety net for their team, and you're there for the leader. And then I think we're going high ropes after that. So we'll jump off, we'll go off the safety net, and we'll get up to the high ropes and really push to the next phase. So that going back into the environment and bringing, as I said, seeing this as an opportunity to really do some cool stuff and develop new opportunities within businesses with awesome teams who have really learnt so much through this. And I think, hopefully it's been positive for many. I think you've kind of nailed it there. It's like put that safety net in place, and then all of the possibilities open up, and you can provide that for teams. It's phenomenal. No,
it's very cool. And I think it allows leaders to breathe a little bit and to be able to focus on what's important and do their day job as well.
Because there's definitely that balance between leading and guiding others and making sure they're getting their own work done as well. So I'm just going to offer the opportunity for anyone to pop any questions in the chat box. There haven't been any coming through as we've been chatting. While we're waiting to see if there's any questions, is there anything else you'd love to add, Rebecca?
I suppose not really, but just, that I think this is so important. I think that, the fact that everybody's coming to this today is so important. I think being open to learning and growth through this period is where we create opportunity. And the simple fact that there will be fallout moving back into the environments, and I think building resilience and mental strength yourself as a leader, but also making sure that you're conscious of having to do that within your team environments, and you're just aware of what's going on for those people as you're transitioning back in. It's been tough working from home, and I'm sure everybody's excited to potentially be back in the office in, say, 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it ends up being, but watching for the challenges that can come with that as well. It's so important.
So would you say now is the time to start putting things in place for those challenges that are going to come in the future?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, even starting with just the basics, just showing an extra level of support to your team. So building great culture is all about the people, right? So just, starting with at least even acknowledging and showing that that they are important to you in all of this is a good step forward. And then putting in place some plans and some goals, and just thinking about some things that you can be doing to make that transition back in more comfortable. And I think a lot of companies are going to change the way that they engage and operate moving forward, because for some companies this will work quite, the remote working will actually play into their business quite well. It's just been a bit of a push. We've done it a little sooner than maybe would have happened otherwise.
I think for a lot of companies that are responding well, and there's a lot that certainly aren't, but a lot of companies are using this as an experiment platform and somewhere to test how things will work. And like you say, it was the push that potentially would have taken years for them to have stepped into. and then leveraging off that into creating possibilities for the future and finding ways to communicate more effectively and to build that compassion and build that grounding and create safety nets for the resilience.